Is John Mara going to smarten up and fire Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll? We've got new information coming from the New York Giants beat reporters where they shared their opinion, and it sounds like they think that the house will be cleaned. We're going to break all those quotes down on today's show, but I want to gauge the audience that is tuned in to today's video. Do you want the Giants to clean house? If you do, hit that thumbs up icon. And if you don't, give me a reason as to why these two clowns should stay in charge. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. You know what? It fires me up that you guys continue to stop by. The Giants may be 2-11. They may have lost 8 games. Are they 2-12 at this point? 2-12. I can't even keep track of the losses. There's so many. Still 3 weeks left in the season. You guys could quit, and you don't. That fires me up, and it makes me want to do the very best job I can to get you the very best Giants content every single day. Today's video, we're going to react to what Jordan Ranaan of ESPN and Dan Duggan had to say and what they think, not what they're reporting, what they think is going to happen this offseason. And let's start with Ranaan of ESPN. He said that he thinks there is greater than a 50% chance that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are fired. For the last couple of weeks, I thought John Mara was not going to do it. I did not think he would fire Joe Schoen. I did not think he would fire Brian Daboll. He came out midseason and said he did not anticipate changes being made this offseason. But since he said that, you're now on QB4 of the season. There's been 2 planes flown over MetLife Stadium that embarrassingly called out John Mara, saying, Mr. Mara, enough is enough. Fire everyone and do it. And if you don't do it, we're going to continue to do this. And I know John Mara does not like being embarrassed, and this is the most embarrassing product the Giants have put out in a long, long time. Dan Duggan via Talking Giants on YouTube. Shout out to Bobby. Shout out to Justin. They had Dan Duggan on the other day. Go check it out. Awesome video. Bobby asked Dan, what do you think is going to happen? And he said, no way Daboll is back. And he said, I think they are both gone. And I think that Dan and Jordan are 2 of the most tapped-in beat reporters out there. And when they speak, we should listen. I think that there's probably some substance as to why they believe these things. And you know what? I'm going to believe them. So there is a shot that they both are canned. Ranaan went on to write an article on Monday for ESPN, and he said this: it's hard not to think an organizational overhaul is possible, considering the Giants haven't won since October 6th. It doesn't matter if owner John Mara said in late October that Coach Brian Daboll and General Manager Joe Schoen are safe. Things change when you have the league's worst record in year 3 of a regime. And things also change when you lose 8 games in a row. And things can also change when you lose 12 straight games. I think it's 9 games in a row. You lose 3 more, you're going to close the season on a 12-game losing streak. Things can change. I remember when the report came out that John Mara spoke to the media saying, I do not anticipate changes being made. I said, you know what? 10 weeks is a long time. Look where we are now 7 weeks later, and there are still 3 more weeks to go. I've been on this take for about 4 weeks now at this point. I think both should be fired. And it really comes down to this. I know I want the Giants to lose. I know I want the Giants to tank. It does not give an excuse to the product that they are putting out. Joe Schoen is not doing his job well enough to keep his job. He is not earning the job. That's the type of job you've got to earn day in and day out. Joe Schoen has not earned the opportunity to keep that job. Brian Daboll has not earned the opportunity to remain the head coach of the New York Football Giants. Why? Because the football team is in a worse spot now than when both of them took over in 2022. The record has gotten worse every year. And to quote my man Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. And the Giants are 2-12, the worst record in the NFL, which means the Giants and everybody that's employed by them are the worst in the NFL. Like, outside of the record getting worse every year, the roster gets worse every single year. The roster right now is in a worse spot than when Joe Schoen got hired. And remember who was doing the job before Joe Schoen got hired? It was Dave Gettleman, the same man that was using a Wii remote in the 2022 NFL draft class to move along his big board. A Wii remote. And we are in a worse spot then. I think this is the best way to just summarize it. Think about who were the best players on the New York Giants in 2022 when Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll took over. Saquon Barkley, gone. Andrew Thomas, still here. Dexter Lawrence, still here. Leonard Williams, gone. Xavier McKinney, gone. Julian Love, gone. Adoree Jackson, you didn't bring him back. Now you brought him back. Now he's cooked. Darius Slayton, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Daniel Jones. Somehow I tried so hard to find someone else to put at the number 10 spot, but I had to put him here, and then you gave him $100 million. So look at that list. And now look at the top Giants in 2024. Let's do an exercise. Dexter Lawrence, not brought here by Joe Schoen. Andrew Thomas, not brought here by Joe Schoen. Darius Slayton, not brought here by Joe Schoen. So you've added Brian Burns, Malik Neighbors, Bobby Okereke, who is declining, Jermaine Illuminor, who was supposed to be a starting left guard that you had to move a right tackle. And I'll tell you this much. Finding top 10 Giants to go on this list was so sick. I had to include Micah McFadden, Tyrone Tracy. This team is in a bad spot. You haven't added one blue chipper to this roster outside of Brian Burns. And you had to go out and give a second and fifth round pick at $150 million to do so. You've been here 3 years, and you haven't improved the roster. It's actually in a worse spot. And for all the people that talk about, man, the injuries knocked us out this year. Giants are no good because of the injuries. Well, PFF and ESPN, who are non-biased media outlets that cover the National Football League, ranked the New York Giants as the 31st and 32nd worst roster in the NFL going into the season. It ain't because of the injuries. The injuries also made you worse, but you were worse than almost everybody in this league, even before preseason week number 1. Joe Schoen, I will never, ever forget what you told me and what you told millions of New York Giants fans at your introductory press conference. You were asked, do you think you will have to tear this whole thing down and rebuild? And you said, with the most smug look on your face, like you always think you're the smartest man in the room, I don't believe in rebuilds. I believe you can compete today and build for tomorrow. The Giants didn't compete yesterday. The Giants are not competing tomorrow. The Giants are not competing at all in the 2024 season. And what the hell have you built? What roster have you built that can compete for today or for next week? Joe Schoen, you have failed Big Blue. Joe Schoen, you have failed the New York Football Giants. And for that, you should be fired. Joe Schoen should not be the general manager of this football team heading into the 2025 offseason with $65+ million to spend and a top 2 pick to select potentially, hopefully, the next Super Bowl winning quarterback for the New York Football Giants. You have not earned that right because the job you have done here is something that should get you fired. It's that simple. We'll talk about Brian Daboll around the corner and why I also think he should be fired. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel. This offseason is going to be nuts for Big Blue, and I don't want you to miss any of it. So subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, and help us reach our goal of 62,000 subs. We are 275 subscribers away. If you bleed Giants blue and you want to help out a fellow diehard Giants fan, smash that sub button right now. Coming up next, why I think Brian Daboll should pack his bags just with Joseph Schoen. But first, I got to give a major shout out to our proud sponsor, Game Time. If you're looking to buy tickets, last-minute tickets to a sporting event, a concert, a theater event coming up soon, download the Game Time app and use the promo code ChatSports, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. Game Time makes sure that you get the best seats for the lowest price guaranteed. The reason that Game Time is the only ticketing app I use is because I know Game Time is going to do everything within their power to make sure I get the best deal possible. I got the best deal possible when I went to go see the Grateful Dead concert. I got the best deal possible when I got to go see Knicks versus Mavs. When I went to the Home Run Derby, all of those times were awesome, and I was able to make it happen because of Game Time. And if you use these two features, all-in pricing and Game Time picks, you are going to make sure that you get the best seats for the lowest price guaranteed. That all-in pricing feature is awesome. We all get hidden fees on these other ticket apps, not on Game Time. So download the app, create an account, and use that promo code ChatSports, CHATSPORTS, and get $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. All righty. Brian Daboll, I do think there is a world where you could be a successful head coach in the National Football League. I do think there is a world that can exist where Brian Daboll is the right head coach to develop the next quarterback for the New York Football Giants. But I think in this business, you got to look at things like this. Why did Brian Daboll get hired? And is Brian Daboll doing the things that got him hired at an elite level? He is not. Daboll has struggled at what he's supposed to be good at. And maybe that's because he's not been given the proper equipment, the proper players. But let's just take it for what it is. He has not been able to develop any of the 5 different quarterbacks that have played for the New York Giants since he got here. Maybe they all just stink. Maybe they're all just no good. But I know that a good coordinator can make a shitty quarterback look not so shitty. And I don't think any quarterback the Giants have employed over the last 5 years have played over their expectations. He's supposed to be a QB guru. He's supposed to be a QB whisperer. He's the guy that got Josh Allen off the ground. Can't believe I believed that for 1 second. He has not done it. Number 2, you're supposed to be a good play caller. You're supposed to give your team an advantage every single Sunday. You got hired to be the head coach of the New York Football Giants for what you did as the play caller for the Buffalo Bills. And I know there's a lot more to play calling than just scoring in the red zone, but I'll just break it down bit by bit. The Giants are scoring touchdowns on just 42.1% of red zone trips this year. Dead last in the NFL. We also know that Brian Daboll was the play caller in disguise last year for the New York Giants. Last year, they scored touchdowns in the red zone at a 44.1% clip. Second last in the NFL. So you actually got worse as a red zone play caller when you became the bona fide play caller. And when you were not the play caller for the New York Giants in 2022 and Mike Kafka was the guy, the Giants scored touchdowns on red zone trips at a 64.8% clip. Top 5 in the NFL. So you go from 5th to 31st to 32nd. Just like the record. Worse and worse and worse every single year. You're supposed to be able to dial it up in the red zone. You haven't done it in 2 years for this football team. You're also supposed to be a guy that can get the most out of their football team and be able to make those gutsy play calls. Be able to go and draw up a great 4th down conversion. You're 19th in the NFL in 4th down conversion rate this year. And I believe if you just took away all the QB sneaks, you'd be bottom 5 in the NFL. What about 2-point conversions? How good of a play caller are you when the marbles are on the table and you got to go get 2 points to win the football game? You know what an idiot does? He calls a swinging gate play that Coach Fred Green taught the Pecan Grove Hurricanes when we were 7 years old. I was 7 years old when I was taught how to stop the swinging gate. And Brian Daboll brought it out in the National Football League. And it's not that it got stopped. The Giants didn't even know how to run it. You've been a joke on 4th down, you've been a joke in the red zone, and you've been a joke on 2-point conversions. 21st when it comes to 2-point conversion rate this year. So he doesn't give you an advantage on red zone trips. He doesn't give you an advantage on 4th down play calls, and he doesn't give you an advantage on 2-point conversion plays. Does Brian Daboll give you any sort of advantage on Sundays? I don't think he does anymore. And maybe he doesn't have the proper talent. That's definitely an argument you can make. But good coaches find a way to win. Great coaches find a way to put their team in position to have success. And I just don't think he does that anymore. And I feel like he did. I feel like he did do that in 2022. Or was that Mike Kafka? And was that Wink Martindale? Who, 2 guys that he removed from their job, essentially. He couldn't coexist with Wink Martindale, so he quit on him. He took over the play calling for Mike Kafka. He can't even build a staff. Can't even build a staff. Shane Bowen stinks. He cannot be here next year if Brian Daboll's back, which means that would be the 3rd defensive coordinator in 4 years for Brian Daboll. Are you going to get a new offensive coordinator? Because Mike Kafka's out of here, which means that would be the 3rd offensive coordinator in 4 years. You already had to fire Bobby Johnson, and you brought in Carmen Brasillo, best hire you've ever made. The special teams coordinator, you've already hired 2. He's going to be fired after this year. He can't build a staff. He can't give you an advantage on third down. He can't give you an advantage on fourth down, in the red zone, on two-point conversions. I think we like the idea of the made-up version of who Brian Daboll is instead of who he actually is. Who is a play caller, who is in over his head at the head coaching position. And even I just fell a victim to this. He's not a good play caller because since he's been the play caller, the Giants are the worst offense in the NFL. Just doesn't move the needle anymore. And I want a head coach that I believe going into every game gives me the best chance to win and gives me an advantage over the other coaching staff. Giants don't have that in Brian Daboll. What do you think? Should the Giants fire Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen? Is it time? Is it time to move on from the Buffalo duo? Type F for fire, type K for keep. Make sure you are following me on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, @MarshallGreen_. Give me a follow, and let's go Big Blue.